You notice on a Tuesday morning, something quiet and easy to miss. Your dog gets up from his bed, and his back legs take just a half second longer than they used to. He steadies himself, shakes it off, and looks at you like everything is fine. But you saw it. And if you're watching this, you already know that half second matters. The good news is that there are 5 gentle, vet-endorsed movements you can start this week at home. No equipment beyond a broom handle and a handful of treats that veterinarians widely agree help maintain hind-end strength in older dogs. We're counting down from 5 to 1, and I want to tell you right now that the single most important one lands last. So stay with me, because that last one is the one most people skip, and it is the one that makes the biggest difference. Before we get into the movements, let us spend just a moment on why the back legs go first. It is not random, and understanding it will help you stay consistent with these exercises even on the days when your dog seems fine and you wonder whether any of this is necessary. The process is called sarcopenia, which is simply the gradual loss of muscle mass that comes with age. Veterinarians widely agree that it happens in dogs just as it does in people, and it tends to show up in the hindquarters before anywhere else because the muscles that support the hips and the rear end are some of the largest, most metabolically demanding muscle groups in a dog's body. When a dog slows down, those muscles get less daily stimulation. Less stimulation means faster loss. Faster loss means weaker legs. Weaker legs mean less confidence on slippery floors, more hesitation on stairs, and eventually that heartbreaking wobble you may have already started to see. If your dog is over 8 years old, this process is already underway whether you can see it clearly or not. These exercises will not stop time, and I want to be honest with you about that, but they can meaningfully slow what happens next. That is the goal. That is what we are working toward together. One important note before we begin. Everything you are about to hear is educational information based on mainstream veterinary guidance. It is not a substitute for an examination by your own veterinarian who knows your specific dog. If your dog is already showing significant weakness, stumbling, or seems to be in pain when he moves, that is a same-week vet visit. Full stop. Get that appointment before you start any new exercise routine. Now, number 5. Number 5 is slow leash figure eights, and it earns its spot on this list because it is the easiest place to start and because almost any dog can do it regardless of current fitness level. Here is what it looks like in practice. You find a flat, non-slip surface, a patch of grass, a carpeted hallway, anything with traction. You set up 2 anchor points about 6 to 8 feet apart from each other. These can be patio chairs, 2 potted plants, even just yourself and a family member standing still. Then you walk your dog slowly in a wide figure 8 pattern around those 2 points. The key word is slowly. The benefit here is not cardio. The benefit is lateral weight shifting. Every time your dog curves around one of those anchor points, he has to push off with the outside hind leg and bear slightly more weight on the inside one. That low-level lateral loading is exactly the kind of gentle stimulation that tells those hind-end muscles they still have a job to do. Veterinarians who focus on canine rehabilitation widely recommend this kind of controlled lateral movement for dogs with early hind-end weakness. Aim for about 5 minutes, once in the morning and once in the evening, and keep the pace slow enough that your dog is genuinely curving his body, not just trotting in a straight line and making loose turns. After 2 weeks of consistent practice, what improvement looks like is subtle but real. Your dog will begin to place his hind feet more deliberately in the curves, and you may notice he recovers his balance faster when he shifts his weight. The one mistake that makes this worse is turning it into a walk. The moment you speed up and let it become a regular leash walk, you lose the lateral loading that is the whole point. Keep it slow. Keep it deliberate. Number 4 is cookie stretches, and this one you can do in your kitchen in under 3 minutes. The idea is simple. Your dog stands still, and you use a treat held close to his nose to slowly guide his head in different directions while his feet stay planted. You guide his nose toward his left shoulder, hold for a few seconds, release, and reward. Then toward his right shoulder. Then straight down between his front legs. Then for dogs who are comfortable and have no neck issues, gently back toward his hip on each side. What you are creating is a slow, controlled stretch that runs all the way down the spine and engages the stabilizing muscles along the top line and into the hindquarters. Orthopedic vets and canine physical therapists widely recognize these kinds of standing cookie stretches as a low-risk way to encourage core engagement and spinal flexibility in older dogs. 3 repetitions in each direction, twice a day, is a reasonable starting point for most dogs over 8. What improvement looks like after 2 weeks is a dog who follows the treat more fluidly, with less stiffness in the turn, and who stands with more stable hind feet during the stretch rather than shuffling to rebalance. The mistake that makes this worse is rushing it. If you swing the treat too fast, your dog just turns his whole body. You want his feet to stay still and his spine to do the reaching. Slow it down until you can see his top line actually curve, and then you are doing it right. Here is what I want you to keep in mind as we go through this list. Consistency over intensity. That is the central truth of senior dog fitness. A little bit done every single day does more than a long session done twice a week. I will come back to that point when we get to number 1, because it is the reason most people accidentally make things worse even when they're trying hard to do everything right. Number 3 is controlled sit-to-stands, and this one looks almost embarrassingly simple until you understand the mechanics of what it's actually doing. You ask your dog to sit, then immediately ask him to stand, then sit again, then stand again. You do this slowly and with intention, 10 repetitions, once or twice a day. That is it. What makes it powerful is that the motion of rising from a sit requires your dog to push through his hips and extend his stifle joints, which are the equivalent of human knees, using the large muscle groups of the hindquarters. Every controlled rise is a small, low-impact resistance exercise for exactly the muscles that Sarcopenia targets first. Veterinarians who work in canine rehabilitation widely refer to these as therapeutic sit-to-stands, and they're one of the foundational exercises in post-surgical recovery programs for dogs with knee and hip issues. Though, of course, if your dog has a diagnosed orthopedic condition, you will want guidance from your vet before adding these. For a generally healthy senior dog without a known diagnosis, this is one of the most straightforward things you can do. After 2 weeks, improvement looks like smoother, more confident rises, less hesitation, and hind feet that stay more squarely underneath him rather than splaying out to the sides as he comes up. The mistake that makes it worse is letting your dog do a sloppy sit, one where the hind end flops to one side. That kind of crooked sit does not load the muscles evenly. Ask for a tidy, straight sit each time, and if your dog struggles to sit straight, that in itself is useful information to share with your vet. Number 2 is low cavaletti stepping, and I know that word sounds like something from Horse Farm, but the version we're talking about is simply placing 2 or 3 broom handles or wooden dowels flat on the ground, parallel to each other, about 2 to 3 of your dog body lengths apart from one another. You walk your dog slowly over them on a loose leash. The low obstacle on the ground encourages your dog to pick his feet up more deliberately than he would in a regular walk, which requires conscious engagement from the hip flexors and the muscles along the back of the hind legs. The ground level height matters. You're not asking your dog to step over something tall. You want the bar just high enough that he notices it and lifts his feet, not so high that he has to jump or strain. Orthopedic vets and canine rehabilitation specialists widely use cavaletti patterns as early-stage hind-end conditioning exercises precisely because they demand more conscious foot placement without requiring speed or impact. Do 3 to 5 passes over the poles at a slow walk once a day. What improvement looks like after 2 weeks is a dog who steps over each pole cleanly and confidently rather than occasionally dragging a hind toe across it. Dragging a hind toe is worth noting, by the way. If you see consistent toe dragging before you start these exercises, that is a same-week vet visit. Occasional scuffing in a tired or arthritic dog is common, but persistent toe dragging on its own can signal something that needs a professional eye on it. The mistake that makes cavaletti stepping worse is spacing the poles too close together. When they're too close, your dog shortens his stride to shuffle between them rather than stepping over each one deliberately. Space them generously enough that each pole gets its own full, lifted step. And now we are at number 1. I told you I would save the most important one for last, and here it is, short daily uphill walking. Not a hike, not a long trail, not the kind of weekend adventure you plan around the fall foliage. Short, gentle, consistent uphill walking. We're talking about 5 to 10 minutes on a mild incline every single day. The incline does not have to be dramatic. A gentle slope in a park, a gradually rising neighborhood street, even a long ramped driveway. What the uphill does, biomechanically, is shift your dog's center of gravity slightly forward, which causes his hind legs to bear a higher percentage of his body weight and work harder with each step than they would on flat ground. This is the single most effective passive loading exercise available to a senior dog because it requires no tricks, no equipment, and no special training. The dog simply walks, and the hill does the work of loading those hind muscles. Veterinarians who specialize in canine sports medicine and rehabilitation widely agree that incline walking is one of the most beneficial forms of low-impact hind-end conditioning for older dogs. The incline recruits the gluteal muscles, the hamstring equivalent muscles, and the deep stabilizers of the hip in a way that flat walking simply does not. After 2 weeks of daily uphill walking, owners commonly report that their dog climbs stairs with more confidence, rises from lying down more fluidly, and holds his hind end up more steadily during the cookie stretches and sit-to-stand you are also doing. It builds on everything else in this list. The mistake that makes uphill walking worse is the most common mistake in all of senior dog fitness, and it is the one I mentioned earlier in this video: weekend warrior overexertion. You do 10 minutes of gentle uphill every day from Monday through Friday, and then Saturday comes and the weather is beautiful and you feel great, and you take your dog on a 45-minute hike. On Sunday, he can barely get up. You panic. You rest him for 4 or 5 days, and then you start the cycle again. That pattern of overexertion followed by forced rest is genuinely more damaging to aging muscle and connective tissue than no exercise at all. Consistency is the whole game. 10 minutes daily will do more for your dog's hind-end strength over the next 6 months than any amount of heroic weekend effort. Keep it short. Keep it daily. Keep the pace gentle. That is the whole philosophy of everything on this list. So here is your practical takeaway. This week, pick just 2 of these 5 movements and do them every single day. Do not try to implement all 5 on day 1. Start with the sit-to-stands and the uphill walking. Do them gently, consistently, and notice what you see after 14 days. Then, once those feel like a natural part of your daily routine, layer in the figure eights and the cookie stretches. Save the cavaletti stepping for when you feel like you have found your rhythm and your dog is engaged and comfortable with the others. Your dog is still here. He still gets up every morning and looks for you. These next years, with a little intentional care, can be genuinely good ones, not just tolerated years, but good years with strong enough legs to keep up with whatever pace of life you two have built together. We put out new videos every week here on the Gray Muzzle, all of it focused on helping your older dog live comfortably and well. If this was useful to you today, subscribe so you do not miss what comes next. Your dog's good years are worth every bit of this.